Okay, I have two more. The first one is that I do not believe that AI is scary. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, but I do know that every single time I talk to somebody about AI, and I think maybe you might be the only person.
Really? Because I was going to say, I agree,
think we recently talked about this, actually. Every single time I have a conversation about AI, people say, oh, AI kind of scares me. Like, what if it, rises up and takes over? What if it takes my job? That's always the next one. Like, I think it's going to take my job.
I have a very strong opinion about the takes my job part. And I'll share it when you're done, though.
So I'm not afraid of AI. And I think, part of it is that I work for a company that's like heavily involved in AI, whatever, because it's a software company. It's their version of AI, whatever the case may be. But because of that, I've had to learn a lot about how AI works.
Let me give you some more.
Thank you. And how it works in the back end, how it does the things. And so for a lot of people who are experienced or using AI for the first time, it just seems kind of like magic. Like it just is showing up out of the blue. And then you hear people talk about it in like workplaces. So that's why people say like, oh, AI might take my job. But I truly feel like that concept or that fear that AI might take your job is just helping these CEOs and these people who are building the AI do something different, which is making people work harder. It's making people do more with less time, because now these people who manage everybody on the front line, individual contributors, they are expecting you to do more with less time because you have AI to help you. You have this technology to support you. You should be able to do your job faster. And like as somebody in the tech space, dude, that's how it is. Everything is expected to be faster. Everything is like go, go, go. We're always changing. And part of it is because of AI.
Because you have it. And that's actually my opinion on that. For one, is it doesn't actually take jobs. It makes people that are already doing those jobs, their jobs more efficient. Like, for example, I was trying to use AI to actually edit this podcast. The thing is, you can't just do that if you don't know how to even run editing software. So it's like, if you don't know what you're doing at all, the AI is not going to help you. You have to have some knowledge about how to run it already. And the only thing that really does is it makes people who are going to pay somebody else to do it for them be able to do that. And for that person to be more efficient and make more money, you were going to pay them either way. And it makes for people who are going to figure out how to do it themselves because they don't have the budget to do that, be able to do it more efficiently. It doesn't actually take away that job, because if you know nothing and you're not willing to learn anything, you're not going to be able to run that shit.
Right.
For most things of AI, that's true. And the other thing I think about that is like, jobs do change and that's okay. Sorry to tell you, actually, graphic designer is not a huge career these days as it was 10 years ago. Sorry to tell you.
There will still be graphic designers, because at the end of the day, graphic designers have their own style. They will contribute to this world in so many different ways that AI can never do. Right. At the end of the day,
I do feel like there's still limits. Like, I'm not going to go on an AI to make music. Right. I feel music should be made by humans, but
it's there. It's kind of in the background, and it's not to like dismiss people who have concerns, because there are certain concerns about the environmental impacts. When we talk about art, when people talked about like, oh, it's taking from artists. Absolutely, that's what it does. It takes from everything that we feed it.
But then again, it might still make real art made by real people even more valuable.
Absolutely.
Totally people that can afford art are still going to buy art,
because it's already become like a social like taboo to like, oh, you can't tell that it's AI. Like, oh my gosh, you're buying AI. Like, it's already socially unacceptable.
Right. So quickly.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, it's not even going to fly with most people. Again, I feel like there's just two sides of it. I think with the work piece, I think people need to be more concerned that they are going to be asked to do more at work with less time, because their employer believes that AI is going to help them. AI is not going to take your job. AI might change your job.
It will change it.
But it's going to be something totally different,
But I feel like also this is and I'm like a person that is prone to naturally being freaked out about like technological advancement. Like, it's not it's just a way that I'm wired. Like my first reaction is going to be like side eye, but I've learned to kind of like counterbalance that, and I've learned to think about it differently. Because like people, you know, when it was radio, they were like, these kids aren't playing outside. Now they're just on the radio. Then it was the internet. It's TV. You know, now it's iPads. It's
of people freaking out when credit cards were introduced.
No, I haven't. But I believe it. It's always, whatever the advancement is, everybody freaks out. 10, 20 years later, everybody's like, I couldn't live without this. Even your auntie who was freaking the fuck out about text messages. I remember my mom would not get text messages on her phones for so long. And I was like, Mom! And now she can't stop texting me, texting everybody. You know what I mean? It's like, eventually you're going to get used to it either way.
It's totally valid to fear the unknown, right? Like, again, these are obviously our unpopular opinions. But yeah, every time I hear somebody say like they are afraid of AI, I'm just like, AI has not even gotten there yet. And it's only, it can only do as much as the humans allow it.
But it's also, they've been working on it since the 70s.
Yeah.
AI's existed since the 70s.
Time.
Everybody's like, what? All of a sudden.
And companies are like just now making it a big thing. And like, it's mostly like being able to provide people with like custom experiences when they're searching for a product, you know, it's not going to change the way you fucking feed your kids, you know?
Right.
Maybe it could years from now, but you're giving it too much credit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You're giving it too much credit. These CEOs and whatever, they think they're doing big shit, and it's like, not for the rest of the world. If that shit went down, we're still gonna be fine.
And it's also, like you said, it's people give it too much credit because they also think it's a little better than it actually is. Yes. Like if you actually use it on a regular basis, you'll know like a lot of time you really need a human touch for whatever you're asking.
Yes, exactly.
It's more like even a place to just kind of like work out ideas, figure out certain things you didn't think of, get different answers. You know, it can do certain things like chop up a video, but it's not going to like know which part of the video is interesting.
Yeah.
But it could chop it up. It's like,
yes. And it's like, you know, when people use like ChatGPT or anything, they ask an AI whatever a question, and it gives it, and you know, people think it's thinking and it's whatever. It's just using the information that it's been taught by whatever engineer or developer or whatever.
By a person.
And it's predicting what you think you would want to hear because it's been given all this information.
Yeah.
It's not thinking in its brain. It's not comprehending.
Right.
It's just putting together words that as a prediction.
Right.
That you as a human, as the end user, would think that this is the right answer. So anyway, my unpopular opinion is that AI is not scary.
I agree. I still get a little scared sometimes, but I do think it's like genuinely not scary.
I'm not scared yet, I guess.
Yeah. I think like, you know, it's as scary as social media.
Yeah.
Which again, it's like, yes, there are some problems.
I'm more scared of humans and what they can do.
Yes.
Not, you know.
There's like genuinely like already the bad thing that we are scared of that humans do to each other happening right now. Yeah. I mean, the environmental impact too, like I feel like something that kind of weirds me out sometimes is like, you can ask people like, how do you justify buying fast fashion? And they're like, oh, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. But then you want to be like, AI is so problematic. It's like, I mean, I think everything has to come with balance, and everything is like, a lot of time it's really a lot more about the companies and these giant entities than it is about the individual. But like, I do think individuals have a lot more power than we give ourselves credit for. But like, I don't think, is it like when you're considering the environmental impact, is it ethical to ask AI like, what should I have for breakfast? You know what I mean? Maybe not. But like when you're actually trying to use it to get a task done, I don't think that's that much more impactful than like the fact that you turned your lights on. You know?
I think it'll continue to evolve, and later on, who knows what type of regulations and rules and all of it. It's technologies continues to evolve. Doesn't AI
constantly?
Or not, you know, it's gonna be different.
And it's actually kind of exciting. And honestly, I feel like so much of technology, like if we like so much of what evolves within humans is what we care about. And so like if enough people care about like, let's solve climate change, like let's solve racism. Let's solve like colonialism. Like we can actually use some of these like advancements to really solve
AI
shit like
figure
that.
Shit out.
Yeah, exactly.
We gotta get some different people in the room. Though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. What's your last?
My last one, and I think this will be the one that maybe I have to change your mind.
Oh, okay.
About. I think we've talked about this before, and I think we differed in opinion, so I think this is a good one. But I do not believe that cancel culture is real.
Right. Yes. I've actually been thinking about that a lot since you said it. Mm-hmm.
I think that I think
you changed my mind already.
The idea that cancel culture is a thing is created by a group of people who typically are people who don't take accountability for their actions. And they are the group of people who say, oh, everybody nowadays are too sensitive because instead of looking at themselves, they point at the audience and say, it's your fault. We typically see this in like comedy, right? Comedy is like the only form of entertainment that for some reason is supposed to stay the same all these years, even though we've changed the way we do movies and shows. For some reason in comedy, you're able to tell the same, right? And it's like, well, maybe not. Maybe not.
Well, actually, Andrew Schultz had a fucking, stadium full of like 1 million people, and 70% of the show is straight bigotry. So you actually can say
you can say anything you want.
Yeah.
But they are afraid of people not liking them. What cancel culture is like, hey, some people don't like everything. Mm-hmm. And it's like as soon as somebody doesn't like something, people start yelling, oh, you're trying to cancel them. You're trying to no, sometimes people just don't like everything. Yeah. Like I just don't see, and nobody's ever really been canceled. There's not a single person. The people who they claim to have been canceled, they always still have an audience. The people who have been canceled are people who go to jail, but that's not canceled. That's a consequence.
Yeah. So this is something I think about because I do feel I'm in a liberal bubble because even my family members are like liberals. So sometimes I feel like I can really fall into this like, what? People think like this? I don't fall into it, but I could because I'm like, I still really genuinely cannot wrap my mind around why people think certain ways.
I'm the same way.
So I'm like, well, I don't actually know if J.K. Rowling's been canceled or not because within everybody I know, everybody's like, fuck her. You know what I mean? Like, she's a transphobe. Mm-hmm. I don't actually know. Is she canceled? She's probably still rich. Like, I don't know. Is R. Kelly like truly, genuinely canceled? I think R. Kelly's truly, genuinely canceled.
No, he's not. He has a huge fan base. Absolutely. There are people who will die for that man.
I believe that because you think about people like Chris Brown who like went right through before cancel culture even was a thing, even though you're saying it's not, which I believe you. Because like in the last episode, I even was talking to my friend Kira about like, somebody, I think Samik mentioned, oh, this comedian or that comedian, somebody like that was canceled for misogyny. And I said, nobody's ever been canceled for misogyny.
No.
Look at what it took to get Drake canceled. It took the most popular man
and Drake
that everybody loves.
And Drake still has a huge audience. The people who defended him down mostly because they don't like it. Drake will also be somebody who will never be canceled. He might be made fun of. He might be shamed. He might have lost some fans.
A lot of fans.
But to be canceled, no, definitely not. It's just like some people have decided, oh, I don't support this person anymore.
Yeah.
I don't like this person anymore. And people are allowed to not like things.
Yeah. Now that you say that too, it's like when the coin was flipped and it's on like, oh, like, I'm sure a shit ton of people hated Oprah just for being a black woman who's rich, and a shit ton of people probably hated Ellen for just being a lesbian. I know even current day, like a shit ton of people hate like Jada Pinkett Smith, for example, for just being a woman and whatever. So it's like when it's a flip, it's not called canceling.
Right. Absolutely not.
But if it's for accountability for actually being shitty about something, now it's canceling.
Yeah. It's like, oh, wait. No, it's all of you who are mad at me. That's the problem. Yeah. You guys are too sensitive. It's too deep. All of these things that point back at the person who's experiencing the dislike is always pointed back.
Because they feel entitled to to bigotry, basically.
Yes, and it's just like, wait, if you fully believe what you're saying and you feel strongly about it and you feel confident enough to say it, why are you so afraid of the backlash?
Right.
Why are you so afraid that somebody doesn't like what you have to say? Just
Period.
say it. Be real about your shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, who's gonna stop you? Nobody, because cancel culture is not real. You still have, all of these people still have a platform, no matter what they say.
That's so true. And Samik was just telling me last night about this girl here in the States who has like, I'll try to find her name later and like, if I can, but she is an Indian girl who had a U.S. visa, and she posted and was showing a lot of support about Palestine, and she got like, ICE was like trying to get her, so she like self-deported herself to Canada. He was just telling me this whole story. It's like an amazing story. I was like, first of all, go the fuck off. Self-deporting yourself to Canada is badass as fuck.
That's crazy,
honestly, but she was on like a student visa. So I'm like, I think what you're saying is actually makes a lot of sense, and like I would almost take it to the next level, which is like cancel culture isn't real, and like that oppressive and censorship culture is still like so much stronger, because you can still have your status ripped away for having an opinion that opposes the state or opposes the status quo.
I feel like if cancel culture is anything, it is that people feel more empowered to speak about the things that they don't like. People feel more empowered to gather around people who don't like the same thing. Really, it's almost like a collective group of people saying, hey, we're not going to stand for this anymore. It's just like there were a lot of people who hated that white people use the N-word. And at some point somebody said, fuck no, you can't say that shit anymore. Were we saying that was cancel culture back then? We decided that was no longer a thing, and people were upset about it. And to me, I think about that as like, a moment in time as the rest of the shit. At some point, we decided you just can't say that shit anymore.
Right.
Those things perpetuate other violent things, right?
Yeah.
You can, with your close friends, you can make certain types of jokes that don't involve something that rolls into something violent, right? Like there's a hierarchy there, right? And it's just like,
that's where trust comes in,
exactly. And there's like people who like comedians specifically, they think that the audience has to change for them. No, you are the entertainer.
Yeah.
You have to,
you have to evolve.
If I went up on stage and told a knock-knock joke and I was serious about it, am I supposed to expect people to laugh? We don't tell knock-knock jokes unironically anymore. Like we don't do that anymore. That's not how comedy works. That's not how entertainment works anymore. We had to change the way we made music, the way we make shows and movies. Plot lines had to be more complex. Like we can't just keep saying the same shit. Why is it that the same mediocre white men get to tell the same fucking joke and we're supposed to keep laughing? And if we don't laugh, then we're the problem?
Right. And I think that's part of it too, where it's like, it's not that you can't say anything. It's that you have to nail the joke. Like you have to be funny.
If the joke sucks, the joke sucks. And
exactly.
Most of those people who are telling those jokes, they don't even know the community that they're talking about. So the joke never lands because they don't know what they're talking about.
Like gay people, we be making fun of gay people.
Gay people are funny
women
because
make
they can
fun of women. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they know them.
Exactly.
And it's as simple as that. And it's like, oh, great, you're telling the same black joke that's been told for 20 years. I got to laugh again. And if I don't laugh, then I'm the problem. I'm too sensitive. And that's the other thing. What's so wrong about being sensitive? Sorry, I don't live in the cage of masculinity.
Period. Yeah, seriously.
And it's worked for them for so long. Yeah. They all kind of fall in that little circle like, oh, you're too sensitive. And they're like, oh, wait, I'm not too sensitive. No, I'm going to laugh. I'm going to keep laughing because I'm a fucking cuck.
Yeah, it's like, actually, you just need to do your job properly. Like, I have been watching a lot more comedy lately, so I've been exposed to this in a way that I hadn't been for a while. And I watched the Andrew Schultz like special, whatever. I literally had no idea who he was. So I don't know if that's weird or not. I just had no idea.
I only know who he is because he was part of something that happened with a different group of podcasters or something. So I learned about who he is, but I've never seen him before then.
I learned about who he is recently too. And the first like 10 minutes, I was like, this guy is funny as fuck. Like he was making some crazy jokes. It was really funny. But then it just starts going into bigotry, and it just wasn't funny. Like we're not laughing anymore.
Like he was trying too hard.
Yeah, and I'm like, wait, so first of all, also like, if you know how to write a joke, which I found out in the first 10 minutes, you do know how to write a joke. Why didn't you just actually keep that going for an hour? But instead you were too lazy. So you just relied on old school bigotry, which is genuinely not that funny. Like if a white man, straight guy is standing up there saying, you know, that's why you guys need mansplaining because you don't know how to do anything without it.
That's supposed to be the punchline.
Yeah, like I'm sorry, that's not that funny.
How do you
a woman probably would have known how to make that funny, but you probably could have still been funny, but you just were too like,
and it's crazy.
You were being lazy.
It's so crazy because jokes like that, it's like you could, as the mansplainer, you could make a joke about your community.
Right.
You could be making fun of yourself, but instead you pull out some old shit. And it's just like,
damn, girl. It's really bad.
It's okay,
It's really bad. It's like toxic air.
Okay, on the podcast.
They're just doing so much.
Yeah, it's so lazy, and to me, it's trying too hard. Everybody is they're trying too hard to get canceled now.
Yeah,
I need to be able to say the most offensive thing I can say, so that way it feels like nobody can touch me. And then they just end up looking stupid and boring.
Yeah.
It's like, but the thing is,
but a lot of people still love it.
Exactly, they still have an audience
still love it.
Who really care about being able to say the same shit over and over again.
Yes,
it to me, it's pride, it's ego, and it's boring.
It is boring. It is boring. I don't
people
understand
who don't like change, people who don't like the idea that things could be different in their life. I just can't understand being the kind of person who's upset that we care about different things. I just could never be that kind of person.
Yeah, I mean, even when you were talking, I was thinking about like, this is the kind of shit that could be taken out of context and get me canceled. But like, right, canceled. But I mean, in my life, I've been told so many different times, like, oh, actually, you can't say that word, or you can't say this word anymore, or like. Not even that way. It's like, oh, actually nowadays that word is considered a slur or whatever. And literally that moment on, never use it again. It's not that hard.
So easy.
It's not that hard.
There's too many words. We have the English language. It's like the most complicated language. There are too many words and it is not that serious. Exactly. Why the fuck would I care? If somebody tells me, hey, that doesn't work for me, why the fuck do I need to Right. For me? Yeah. I don't understand that.
Yeah. It's completely fine. Like, oh, you told me, oh, that T slur is the T slur. Like, it's a slur now. I will never use it again. I actually, even like in high school, most of my friends were black and I would say the N-word because, yeah, no, this is really bad. This is really bad.
I'm so shocked.
Yeah, no, because like they would say it, you know, to me, like I would be there, you know, N-word or whatever. And so if I was, I wouldn't just say it whenever.
I got you. That's so, I just can't even imagine you saying it. It's so funny.
No, I might even cut this out. We'll see. But like, I would like, if I was just trying to say, oh, they said da da da, like I was trying to repeat something, or I would say it in a song. Like I didn't know for some reason. And then like one day somebody said, oh, hey, like you shouldn't actually ever say that, even if you're repeating, or even if this. Never said it again. Yeah. It literally all it took is somebody telling me one time, and I never said it again. I didn't fight them. Yeah. You know what I mean? And yes, I feel like I think back on that. I'm like, that is really embarrassing.
Dude, but I have the same thing with sexism, with homophobia, all those things. We live in the United States of America where this country is built on homophobia, patriarchy, sexism, all of those things we have been conditioned to believe. We had to unlearn at some point. And we decided to unlearn.
No freaking millennial has gone through their childhood without saying that's gay in a bad way.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
I had to go through my tweets
or the R word
one time to see if I had anything in there, and I totally did at some point. And I was like, let me delete this. This is
the
not
R
me.
word was literally just like common every other
was
sentence.
Like movies and shows, you know, all that, dude.
Yeah.
You know what? It was I don't know. This is probably not funny, but I think I still have a homophobic opinion, and it is that I don't think adult white men should dye their hair blonde. I learned recently, and I'll tell you why I think it's homophobic.
But Your boyfriend did that.
I said adult white men. Okay,
Oh, okay, right.
For men of color, I think it's cunt.
Okay,
I think men of color dyeing their hair blonde. Yeah, we understand that their hair is not naturally blonde. I think that shit's cool.
True.
However, I learned that
campy,
a lot of I did not know until just like a year or two ago that there are no like natural blonde adults. All blonde like kind of fades into like that dark brownish.
There's a few. It's very rare.
It's rare, right?
Yeah.
It's still light, but most of the people who are blonde, they are having to maintain their blondness in the salon. So to me, when I see a blonde adult white male, I'm like, bro, you're dyeing your hair blonde? You care that much about your blonde hair? I think it's so homophobic of me to have that opinion. Like, you're going to the salon to get your hair blonde,
if you're gay, it hits different.
Probably yes.
I think so. I think the reason why
I probably am okay with it for gay guys.
Because I think when you're gay, you did it because you were manic. If you're straight, you did it because you want to be seen a certain way.
Yes.
Like, have you heard people talking about like blonde as a racial marker?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, that's to me for white women that upholds their whiteness. Yes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
To be blonde, I mean, it's the blonde versus brunette. You know, that's only between white women, and that's very important. It puts them higher on the white part because they value that whiteness, even if they don't realize it. Some people do it and they don't realize it, but
I think they a lot of time I think they're not thinking about it that way, but they're thinking about it in terms of femininity, which is like femininity is on the scale of
You're
whiteness.
Right. It's like a Venn diagram. It is. They are connected.
They're connected like this, but it's like you don't necessarily. When you're a white woman, you're not like conditioned to understand that.
Absolutely.
You're just conditioned to understand where you fall in the femininity scale. And then you have a lot of women who decided they don't give a fuck. Most of them because they're queer and they had to go through that process to decide, I don't give a fuck. And then above the queers, you have then like, you know, just the cool ass weird girls. Just the weird girls. And they're like, I don't give a fuck because I'm weird. And then above that, you have a lot of women who don't dye their hair because they're gay or manic, but that dye their hair because they want to fall more into that feminine scale, which is a white thing.
We've all been told there's a certain standard of beauty. Beauty is this, beauty is that. And I know white women have a different definition of that. White women have been told something different their whole life. And many white women who need to uphold their whiteness choose blondness. Yeah. And
I think it's considered more of like, in terms of like what a white woman can look like, it's considered a more innocent look in a weird way than brunette. Because like if you think of what is a hot girl, a brunette should be more like a mysterious,
for sure,
sexual.
I mean, you think about movies and shows. A blonde woman could never be in a serious main character role, right? That's only reserved for brunette women who are mysterious and edgy. That's it. And we see that in media, right?
It's more infantilizing, right? Yeah. Exactly. Which has to do with what you said about it's because a lot of naturally brunette adults were blonde as a kid. There is a thing connected to like infantilization and pedophilia.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even if the people don't realize it, like we all have the things that we believe are beautiful typically were because it was socialized. It was because we were indoctrinated, whatever the case may be. And
I'm always working on that.
And we have to every single day. Why do I feel this? Why do our unpopular opinions, our popular opinions, why do I believe this? Why do I believe that? It's a daily thing. It is I'm constantly asking myself, like, where did I get this from? Why do I constantly? And if you don't do that, you will continue to be in the same place. You'll stay around the same people who don't.
Therefore, you're moving backwards. Yeah, because the world's moving forward.
And honestly, I feel like if you don't question why you believe the things that you believe, like how can you move forward in your own personal life and your growth? I mean, if you don't care, I guess people who think everybody's too sensitive, those are the people who don't look inward. Yeah. And I just think I could never live a life like that. I like to know myself.
Genuinely boring. It sounds genuinely boring. I mean, I do think there's some like tension that I would love to get over some days of like, there's a part of me that's like, fat. And then there's a part of me that's like, stop. Fat phobia is not a good thing. Right. And, for example, so the fight can be like annoying. Yeah. But I would still choose that over just like, yes, day in and day out, I'm choosing the conditioning because it's easier. Like, or because I never got educated or thought about it differently.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think about it and I think, maybe I was conditioned, but also I still agree with it. Sometimes it's like, oh, do I,
Do you have an example for one of those?
Oh, I don't know. I know I have something. I feel like I had something I was thinking about recently. Man, I can't think of it off the top of the dome, but there are definitely things like that where maybe it's just like something I feel maybe not necessarily strongly about, but I don't necessarily disagree with something I've been taught, or maybe something that, I've seen, like I feel like, oh yeah, that's real, at least for my reality. I think for me, the most important thing is to consider all of the nuances of life.
Mm-hmm.
My life just cannot be black and white. Like it always depends. There's always some nuance. Like there's always some other factor, because like life is just too complex to believe that like, it's always A to B. Like there's always something in the middle there.
Yeah. I think honestly, like being like a little bit open to changing your mind, or like being a little open to like to not be certain about anything fully is like a really good thing. Like I think that might be one of the few things I'm very certain about, but then the irony of that is like, even that one I'm like, yeah, maybe even that one could change.
Yeah.
There are certain things that I'm like, nobody could ever change my mind on, because I feel like fully is the truth. You know what I mean? Like all people are equal.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody could change my mind on that. But how do we move forward with progress to get everybody to actually be equal in the world? Somebody could change my mind on that. Like, or like spirituality and everything. I think that really is also a marker that you're open to grow and that you do grow.
Yeah.
And like, if you're not, I do really think if you're stagnant, you're like moving backwards.
Yeah.
And it's not a good place to be. Like
you start projecting onto other people because your inwardness is trying to come out some way. At some point you're going to have to face it. It's just like life. And it doesn't mean you have to spend, I say every day I have to unlearn something, but I'm not really doing it every day. You know? It doesn't have to be a daily struggle, but it does need to be something that comes up. Every now and then you got to sit with yourself.
For sure.
Shit. This is
so what's
life.
the most recent thing you've unlearned?
The most recent thing I've unlearned. I don't know if I've unlearned it yet, but as of recent, I saw a clip of something where somebody was saying like they were kind of like got sidelined by an insult to somebody else. Like, for example, people say they see their high school bully. I think it was in one of the videos I saw recently of anyway, it doesn't matter who I saw. They said you will hear people who say things like, "Oh, I saw my high school bully and now they're fat."
Oh,
right? And the person that they're telling this to is fat. And I thought to myself, I've totally had thoughts like that. Like I've seen people who weren't nice to me, and I say, oh, they have like, they're not as pretty as they were anymore. They have like 2 or 3 kids and they're not married, and I don't have any kids and I'm not married, whatever. But in my head, for a second, I probably feel a little bit better about the fact that they were mean to me and now they're ugly.
Right.
Why do I feel that way? Why do I feel like being fat is an insult when I tell myself on the daily, like there's nothing, everybody's body is different. There's nothing wrong with being fat. People's bodies are just and I'm also the type of person who believes that most people who try to act like they care about health are just people who are scared of being fat. Like, how can I be the kind of person who believes that many people are just scared to be fat and they hide behind policing other people's bodies and food choices? And then I could sit with the feeling like that. Like I could maybe see somebody on social media and think, oh, what happened to them? Even if it's a fleeting thought, I think to myself, oh, Javon, like, what are you thinking? It still pops up in my mind first, right? So that's something I have to work through. Like, why do I think that's a bad thing? I'm still internalizing that. I'm still thinking it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Even if I see it differently in other ways,
Yeah. That's a big one for me, and it's something I've been working on for like years and years, my whole adult life basically. But I think like I'm like one of those people that my body can fluctuate into like where people generally could see me as a fat person, and where people could see me as a skinny person. So like it could fluctuate between those. So I've definitely like, I feel like I've received a lot of conditioning like very personally where it's like, oh, when I'm on the skinny side, what people are saying to me about how I look and about my body and like, oh, you just look so strong, or you know what I mean? And then like, and what people say like when I've been at my like biggest, which also got pretty crazy like a couple years ago. When I was in India and I was getting some serious, like actually on the face fat phobia. And I was like, and at that time when I was getting that fat phobia, I was kind of freaking out because I was like trying to fight, you know, like, I'm like, I don't believe that being fat is a bad thing. Like I'm fighting fat phobia in my head, but I was also, part of it was I was terrified to be fat enough to be considered fat. You know what I mean? Instead of like just being like, fuck these people. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I feel like it's a weird scale when you're like a person that's in the middle enough. Like I heard somebody on Caleb Heron's podcast recently. Do you know him?
Caleb Heron is the person who said this, who said that somebody insulted another person, and he basically was like, fuck, you know, I'm fat.
Really?
Like, why do
I love him. I listen to his podcast every day.
He said that I feel like I watched a video with him and Trixie.
Okay,
recently,
yes.
And he said that, and I was like, shit, I've absolutely had thoughts like that before.
Yeah, and he said another thing when I was listening recently that was like, he feels bad for people that are like close to the beauty standard because actually when you're far enough away from the beauty standard, when you're like, actually everybody looks at you and you're like, you're a fat person. Like he identifies as a fat person. It's like, he's obviously fat, but it's easier to like just sit in that and build your self-love and decondition from that place than when you're close to being to the beauty standard. So you're like constantly like, part of you is constantly trying to swim with all your might to get to that island that you're never going to get to because that island is fucking fake and it's made up.
Yes.
But you're close enough that you keep swimming. And then, you know, and so I feel like, you know, bodies actually fluctuate. Like that is part of having a body and, you know, whatever's going on with your health, whatever's going on with your food, the place you live, all these different things are going to affect, you know, how fat, how muscular, how skinny, whatever you are. And I definitely thought about that a lot. And I actually felt seen. Like, I didn't feel like that was like a drag or anything. Like, I was like, oh yeah, like I've been a person that's been, you know, close enough to the beauty standard. Like, you know, I'm white. I have like, you know, kind of green, blue eyes. Like I have, you know, I have this face. I can be considered pretty. But then also my body can fluctuate like to the point where I'm like really not. And it's like, oh, it's interesting. And then as like in the last like year, I think I've lost a lot of weight and I actually was focused on health, not trying to, but with PCOS and everything, like actually my body started dropping weight. And I like the other day I was like, oh, I have some feelings about this. I have mixed feelings but the confusing thing is I feel like some of the good feelings come from a bad place, like a place I don't agree with in values. Right. And some of the bad feelings come from a place that I do agree with in values or.
No, I totally give it to me. That's what happens. That's what happens. It's conflicting.
It's so weird.
It's conflicting.
Yeah. And it's like, why can't it just be neutral? Like it's just a body. It does this now. It did this 6 months ago.
There's too much conditioning. There's too much that we have consumed over time. There's too much that people have told us. You know, it's just like I was saying, when I think about that kind of stuff, like what more do I need to unpack about internalized fat phobia as a person who knows that like beauty standards are set by white supremacy and also have to unpack that. Like there's so many layers, right? There's white supremacy, there's the beauty standards that are upheld by white supremacy, which impact all of the things, especially in a country that we were born and raised in, like the homophobia of it all, the sexism of it all, being perfect as somebody who socializes as a woman.
Right.
Like, you have to look a certain way. Like there's too many layers. And so you have all these feelings that go kind of up and down in between these layers. And it's just like, fuck, how am I supposed to feel? You know, how am I supposed to feel?
Real.
It's like, I want to feel good about myself. But I also want to question the things that I think will make me feel good about myself.
That part, exactly. Like, why do I feel good? Like, and I feel good about my appearance since losing weight. I'm like, oh, look at I feel better about this. I feel better about, this or that. And I'm like, why is that inherently better? Yeah. And I know the reason why that is considered better is because of conditioning. It's not real. And I know that because I've done the research. Like, I know that, that is a fairly new idea in terms of humanity.
Yeah.
It's an idea that spread basically from the creation of television and Hollywood, American white supremacy. I know all this, and it spread throughout the world literally as they projected, Hollywood through the world.
Yeah.
As different countries got access to American television, that is when eating disorders went up in those countries. That is when, I know all that, but it's like and I'm glad to know that. I wouldn't choose not knowing.
Yeah.
But sometimes you get to that place where but it's fighting because your body is still went through all that. Like, your body still grew up in this world and had this, this one time somebody said your butt is big and that was a bad thing, so you felt bad, and then somebody said your butt is big and it was a good thing, so you felt good, and all these things, and your body has this, like, these memories.
Yeah. I think also, like, we learned that, like, beauty is currency.
That part. We learned that it's, like, the most important thing that we could ever do.
It feels really horrible to know that and to believe it. But it is like it's hard to sit with that reality. We hear from our elder women who talk about, like, just being discarded and basically no one notices them as they get older and older. That's scary, That's scary to think about, and it's just like, beauty is currency. Is this a thing? It does feel good to feel beautiful, to look in the mirror and like what I see. But what I decide is beautiful is what I question. Why do I need to look this way or that way? And it's just like, it's a freaking struggle. I was telling you, I read that book, I Who Have Never Known Men. I just finished it, and basically this girl, she's with a group of women. She's locked in a cage. The cage is, like, open randomly one day because some emergency happens. They end up out in the wilderness, and this group of women end up being the only humans are left on Earth or whatever planet they assume they are on. They don't actually know, and they never.
That's so crazy.
They kind of, like, slowly die off over the years. And this girl, who basically was a child in the cage, she grows up in the wilderness with these women, and she learns about what the world was before, because they were a part of the normal Earth that, like, you and I would know. But she grows up in a world not having that knowledge. So she just hears their story. So she doesn't know about certain, just modern things or whatever. She's just out here in the wilderness. So she never learns what beauty is. She doesn't know what it's supposed to be. She just knows what she looks like and what the people around her look like. There is no standard, right? And so it's just like, it was interesting to me, because at the end of the book, like, I guess there's, like, a part where it tells you the whole purpose of this book, and it's to see, like, what people might do without certain influences, what women might do without men in the world, or what people might do without unnecessary violence. And
I should read this.
It's really good. I mean, in the end, spoiler alert, they never find anything. They never find it. They go through this world not ever knowing why they were ever in that cage.
Oh,
and so you in the book, and you're thinking, like, wow, that's typically not how it goes. You normally get an answer. You do not get an answer, but it explores. Damn,
you always read these crazy ass books that leave you like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. And it was so good that it had, like, this, like, kind of summary at the end, because it's like it's exploring what happens when humans are just out there living. The kindness that humans, like, have innately amongst themselves. And again, it explored the ideas of what women might do if men were not there. Like, would they still want their privacy? Would they still be modest? Things like that. That book kind of explores that. So it was interesting. But, there was a point where the girl who grows up as an adult, she finally sees herself in the mirror at, like, 40. And she's like, oh, this is what I look like. I don't know if I'm beautiful, but this is what I look like. She has no idea, and it's just like all of these small influences that have been put in our brain about what's beautiful. I hope that I look in the mirror and I always like what I see, but some days I don't.
Yeah. I feel like without conditioning, I suspect that what I would find beautiful is uniqueness.
Oh, yeah.
you know, because I think of a lot.
I mean, that's how I feel right now. But it's kind of like, I know that I feel that people who look different are more beautiful to me. But I also know what the beauty standard is.
Right.
Right? So it's like, even if I don't agree that the beauty standard is more beautiful than what I find beautiful, I know that the beauty standard still exists.
Yes, exactly. And it's hard to kind of separate those in your mind because you're like, oh, I know. But, you know, I think like people that express themselves through how they look are like kind of inherently beautiful by like, you can catch a vibe when you look at them. Or
I might even ask myself, damn, why don't I look that cool? Or why don't I try something different? Or you know, go against the grain, you know?
Yeah, stuff like that. I think, you know, people, I think like having standout features is beautiful. Like, I think you have like amazing cheekbones. I love your cheekbones. So I love things like that. Or like, I love like crooked teeth. And I think that's something like I've always had straight teeth. So maybe to me, the crooked teeth is more interesting. You know what I mean? Whereas like I've had a lot of acne and stuff through my teen years and everything. So to me, like I notice acne and I don't think it looks good. Where I feel like people with clear skin, when they see somebody with acne, they think, oh, it's some texture, like you know what I mean, like it looks cool.
It's interesting.
So and I feel like on a genetic level, like it makes sense to be kind of like attracted to things that are different from you, because that's gonna make like strong babies, strong genes and stuff, right?
It's interesting. I know recently I see more like sunspots on my skin, and I see so many like ads for skincare that are like, oh, remove your sunspots or remove your dark. And I love my sunspots. It makes me think
sunspots are cute.
I think sunspots are cute. It gives something interesting to my face, especially around my eyes. And also it just makes me think of all of the women before me that I've seen with sunspots, like family members or just like women in my life who just had beautiful like tan skin with, again, the sunspots around their eyes and on their cheeks. I think it's so beautiful and I love that. And so it's just like, I could decide that I don't like them, and I could have let this bit of conditioning make me feel like my sunspots are wrong. But for whatever reason, I chose to believe that they are beautiful. And I can do that with so many other things, you know?
Yeah.
I'm picking and choosing, you know?
It's weird sometimes. I wonder why does this thing bother me and this thing doesn't?
Yeah.
Why does this thing suddenly bother me?
Yeah.
And, you know, and it did before. Like I heard somebody say, it was again on a podcast, so I'll try to like put in a reference to it later. But she was like, oh, I spent like my whole, you know, puberty until 20s feeling like some type of way about my body. And now I'm in my late 20s and I finally feel good about my body. And now I have to feel weird about aging in my face. And I was like, fuck, man. Like, I actually feel that because
it's always something.
Like I sort of suddenly started feeling the way about like aging and my face and different things. And I had all this drama about like my teeth because I have this like fake tooth and I have to get it replaced. And I'm like, oh, I need like my teeth to be like super white before I get it replaced because I want like that color of teeth. And, you know, just all this stuff that I'm like, I never gave a single fuck about that stuff before. But before I was like, oh, something or the other about like my body. But I don't know if that's just how like the machine of beauty standards kind of gets you, or if it's like,
is it just human, you know?
Right. Like is it human to just kind of always find something,
you know, before we could see our reflections? Did we give a fuck? I'm sure I could read about it. Yeah. But like, how much I have to imagine we wanted to feel good. You know? Yeah. Do we care if we want?
If you don't even have mirrors, how would you even?
You know what I'm saying? Were you just thinking about how it felt? Were you looking at it? I have no idea. Maybe I need to read about it. Like what did our ancestors think about their beauty? I definitely
wouldn't be able to feel like
you know,
wrinkles.
I could feel like the hair on my ears, or you know, like in my face or something like that, or maybe I would look down and see scars or something, you know. But like, at what point would somebody decide that this thing is like stretch marks, for example? I remember when I was a kid, like when I you know was starting to grow into my body at like 11, 12, I had stretch marks and I was really, really insecure about them. So I have stretch marks. I don't care anything. My stretch marks are just part of my skin now. I don't think twice about it.
Right.
But I was so insecure about it as a child.
I remember as a child feeling really insecure about cellulite.
Cellulite too, yeah.
And at this age, I could not. I would really not find it. Like, I wouldn't.
It's so bizarre.
I wouldn't think twice about seeing cellulite. Maybe because I know that literally everybody has cellulite, and like maybe at that age, maybe at a certain age when you're getting a lot of conditioning too, you're not actually, unfortunately, you're not seeing a lot of naked people in front of you, you know? And then you're seeing, like, the most skin you're seeing on people is maybe, like, in magazines and stuff. Yeah. So then you're seeing, oh, like, this skin looks completely smooth. Well, yeah, because it's airbrushed and it's edited in post.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but real bodies have cellulite scars. And I think those things kind of are beautiful because they show, like, a map of your life. Yeah. And like sometimes when I think about like what is beautiful really, I think about this picture that Samik and I took. I'll try to find it and like put it on the screen if I can, but like we were in the mountains of Vietnam on a bike, and we met these people like in a rice field, like they're farming rice, and we asked if we could take a picture of this woman because she must have been in her 80s or 90s or even hundreds, I don't know. But her face was just like every part was like a defined like wrinkle. And she looked gorgeous. Yeah. Like ridiculously just gorgeous. Like that is such a beautiful picture. And sometimes I think what is beauty, and that her face like pops in my head, and I'm like, yeah, I think without conditioning, I think the more you could see somebody's life on them, the more beautiful they would look. Yep. Yeah. And, you know, I'm not all the way there. but maybe eventually. Yeah. You know, maybe eventually.
You know, I want to continue to love the way I look, but you know, people say all the time like, "Oh, you know, I have lines on my eyes, on my forehead because those are all the moments I spent in the sun." Like that's so nice to think about. You know?
Like I really don't feel like I could understand why a smile line would ever be a bad thing. Yeah. I do feel a certain way about like 11 lines and stuff, and I'm like, again, I'm not like, okay, it's weird.
I don't want to look angry.
Yeah,
I already have resting bitch face.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, yeah, okay, maybe in one hand, the most beautiful person ever is 90 years old with wrinkles all over her face, and maybe on another hand, I might get Botox. But you know what I mean? Right. And it's all okay.
It's your choice, and it's fine. It'll look beautiful. It's just like, you know, it's okay to question why we do things. You know? Okay,
well, one of my unpopular opinions, which I feel like ties into this both things, is hating on boomers for being problematic is kind of problematic.
Ooh, love this.
Tell me more. Okay.
Tell me more.
Well, I feel like, you know, for one, a lot of time we hate on boomers because they oh, hey, Italy. They project onto an entire generation like an assumption, like a negative assumption. For sure. Hating on boomers is the same thing, for one.
Oh, yeah.
You know, for two, I think like in, you know, pretty much every like indigenous culture around the world, like honoring and respecting your elders is like a huge like cornerstone of like values and culture and stuff. And I feel like part of, you know, going back to the white supremacy and colonial thing, but like part of colonial type culture is like cancellation and everything like we were talking about, like being hypercritical of each other. And it's like as a way to make progress. But I feel like you're not really making as much progress with that as you do with like kindness. You know, and it is complicated. Yeah. It's definitely complicated, but I think like we should be respecting and honoring our elders a lot more, and that would be like a bigger way to get away from unproblematic behavior than like criticizing them for being problematic. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I agree. I mean, it's kind of like what we were talking about in the beginning, like being honest, but being kind is important.
Yeah.
Know? And I mean, obviously it takes the kind of person who wants to be better too.
Yes.
You know, some people don't.
Obviously, yeah. Some people are really assholes.
Some people, you know, are really set in their ways, and you got to know your limits. You got to know who you're talking to. You got to know your audience. Like that's really it, you know. Yeah. But there are some people who are like, I don't understand why this is the way this is. And if you just turn around and say, well, that's because you're a racist piece of shit.
Right.
You probably
you're
won't
gonna
ever
alienate somebody immediately.
And
Yeah.
like you were saying, there's some trust that needs to be there, whatever the case may be. You know, like I have a dear friend she's constantly having to talk to her dad about, you know, some things that he believes that just are not necessarily true about communities and things, whatever the case. And, you know, she does her best and she has her limits, you know, she can only do so much.
Right. And I think, like, you know, when we turn social justice type stuff, when we turn perfectionism on that, like, perfectionism is always gonna, like, kill a dream. Like, it's always gonna kill, you know, like, you're never gonna really get to where you could get to when you're coming from a perfectionistic place. And, like, you know, your 70-year-old grandma maybe really cannot muster a they them. You know what I mean? Like, maybe she really can't. Like, you don't know what it's like to be 70 years old. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what it's like. And there's going to be, when we're 70, we're going to be like, you know, and that's the other thing too. Boomers, a lot of them were really part of the civil rights movement. They were part of, like, the anti-war movements. You know, my grandparents were straight up hippies. And back when being a hippie was actually, like, a cool anti-culture thing to do. Like, so just because they can't muster a they, them necessarily, or maybe they say a problematic thing about this community or that community, but in their heart, they're a good person and they really have, like, used their time to move the world forward. And that's just, like, that's actually a testament to how much the world has moved forward, partly because of them. You know, so if now we throw their progress away and say, like, y'all are so backwards, like, think about how shitty that must feel. You know, and obviously some of them, they need to get the fuck out of the fucking White House and they need to get the fuck out of Congress and go, need to go
again,
sleep.
There's nuances. It's always a dependent situation. There's always room for growth in all communities. So that's an interesting opinion.
Yeah.
I definitely do not have much grace for boomers, and I think I should have more.
Interesting. Yeah. I think it's easy not to because it's popular not to.
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, and it's popular for them to not have a lot of grace for us.
Yes.
But it has to start somewhere, right? The grace has to start somewhere.
It's same. You know, generational wars are never going to go away. We're always going to generalize so and so. I'm.
And I think honestly, we already start to do it. We're already like, what are these terms Alpha's talking about? You know, you're actually cool about that. But like a lot of millennials,
I'm fascinated by it. But yeah, there are a lot of millennials,
and a lot of Gen Z make fun of millennials like they're geriatric. It's just like, everybody calm down. We should all actually be like spending a lot more time with people of different ages.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. We'd all benefit from it. So, I mean, I've had a lot of cool older people in my life. So I'm lucky in that. And also cool parents and cool grandparents. And I mean, I gotta change my opinion about it for sure. I think I'm super prejudiced towards white boomers specifically. Yeah. And that's something I've just had to like kind of be like, okay, that's just not. And I've been proven wrong many, many times that my opinion is not. It's not factual. Yeah. And opinions never are, right?
I mean, I'm sure a lot of white boomers feel that way about you too.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You know? Absolutely.
And a lot of boomers, honestly, are probably still willing to have their mind changed. And I think that, again, is like, that's not dependent on a generation. Like, that's not dependent on an age. Are you willing to have your mind changed? Are you willing to think about something in a different way? And, you know, it is going to be harder to get in there if we're immediately just like, well, that's because you're a piece of shit. Yeah, exactly. Like, how dare you think that? That's crazy. Nobody thinks that anymore.
What do people say? The lead paint stare.
What's that?
It's like because there's so much lead in the paint that of the houses that boomers grew up in, they have this lead paint stare where they're just like, they can't really comprehend anything.
Oh my God.
It's really fucked up.
That is fucked up. I've never heard that one.
I guess they like also like stare at people like out in public and stuff. I don't know the lore on this theory, but look up lead paint stare. You will find a lot on it.
Yeah. Okay, I will. But yeah, I mean, maybe I'm lucky because my grandparents are liberals, you know, and like I said, they're hippies, and they're tree planters, and they planted like a lot of the Pacific Northwest.
Wow.
They raised my mom and my aunt in a bus and like literally drove around and lived in these like communal situations with other people planting trees, you know, rotating who's watching the kids, who's cooking food. My grandpa could plant 1,000 trees a day.
Wow.
So they live very alternatively. So obviously they are more open-minded than most other white boomers that are Americans.
Yeah.
So I feel like the boomers I'm most exposed to are like very beloved to me, and I can actually have conversations. But of course, they still say problematic. My grandpa says stuff all the time that I'm like, that was so sexist. Do I say something or not? You know, or whatever. My grandma will say something that I'm like,
I think I've been lucky too. Like I have white boomer grandparents, and they're both liberal. I think my grandpa had some issues, like with my dad having black kids, but my dad put him in his place about it, and it became no longer a thing. And I've never faced anything from my grandpa, so I don't know if he got his act together or if he just knew how to hide it better. But I've never. I mean, I didn't know until I was an adult that he had feelings about it, until
maybe
later.
he got over it because he saw you guys and loved you guys.
Now he's I think he's come a long way. White man from Arkansas, like he's come a long way. I'm sure. Who knows really where his journey is, but yeah, I'm lucky with both my grandparents, and they're mostly liberal.
I mean, good for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I always respect somebody that chose to like be loving, be cool instead of staying in your, stupid thoughts forever. Yeah. Yeah. So we gave you the cream last week, the new cream. We have a new product coming out. We're switching our branding over from Thea's Essence to Cloud Pink. So a few of the products are getting revamped. So one of the products that's getting revamped is our face cream. So how did you feel about it?
I loved it. Now, I'm a sensitive skin girly.
Okay, me too.
So I did like a little skin test patch on my neck first to make sure, because when I introduce new stuff to my like skincare routine, I typically will find like redness or like I'll have like a breakout or something like that. So I did a skin patch test first, and then I started using it just like in place of my usual like morning moisturizer. First of all, it smells great.
Yes.
It's like a light scent. I don't like heavy perfumes. It's a light scent, and it feels really like creamy and smooth. Like I don't know. It just feels like it spreads a little bit more on my skin, like nicer.
Yeah.
Like and Sonic was saying a little goes a long way, and that is very true. And honestly, it just felt like very soft and light. Like it wasn't heavy, which I like for a daytime cream. So I just use that after I use all of my other products. And it's only been a week, so of course I can't tell any difference so far. But the way it feels on my skin is really nice. The way it smells is really nice.
Your skin looks beautiful.
And like I said, I'm a sensitive skin girly, so all is normal, all is well. So,
hell yeah.
Yeah.
You haven't had any reactions to it?
No. Nothing at all.
Nice.
It feels really great. My skin feels really great. And yeah, I mean, it's doing its job. It's moisturizing, that's for sure.
Hell yeah.
So, I'm like, hell yeah, that's what I like.
Awesome. Thanks for trying it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys, go to theasessence.com to get yours.
So yeah, thanks for letting me try it. I love a good tryout. I love introducing something new, and also it works really well. So thank you. Where can the people find it though?
Oh yeah, at Cloud Pink Beauty on Instagram, or theasessence.com, TheasEssence.com. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Yes,
I love having you.
Fun.
Come again anytime.
Yeah. As things progress, it's been great. Thanks for having me.
Do you want to share your social media or anything like that? I just cut it if you don't want to.
You can find me on TikTok at hunty.bunty.
Oh, that's so cute.
Although I haven't used TikTok in so long, I'm thinking about re-downloading the app because I do have content on there. I post travel content. If you want to get some tips and tricks or an itinerary or two for a trip you might want to take, I specialize in solo travel.
Let's go.
That's hunty.bunty on TikTok.
Hell yeah. All right. Everybody remember to subscribe on YouTube or your podcast app.
Smash that subscribe button.
Yeah, smash. Leave a review and come back next week.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye.